you're just using me.
Yeah.
And I don't mind being used.
If you want a presidential cover-up, Barr is your guy.
Evangelical Christians, we accept their anti-Semitism because they're pro-Israel.
Federal prosecutors have charged 53 medical professionals with illegally handing out 32 million opioid pills to 250,000 patients across 5 states. Among those being charged, a dentist who pulled out people's teeth to justify prescribing painkillers, and doctors who traded sex and money for prescriptions. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo, who campaigned on a platform of reducing poverty and corruption, looks set to win a second term. Exit polls show him with a 10-point lead ahead of his main opponent, a former general who appealed to hardline Islamists. But results won't be final for weeks, thanks to the logistical nightmare of counting as many as 190 million votes from all 17,508 islands. An outpouring of donations to rebuild Notre Dame has reached nearly $1 billion, showing there's nothing like the near destruction of an apolitical point of national pride to get people to open their wallets. But despite President Emmanuel Macron's promise that the renovation will take 5 years, experts say it will take decades. Researchers at Yale say they've managed to partially revive the brains of pigs hours after they were decapitated. The scientists say that after pumping the brains with synthetic blood for 6 hours, the cells became active and were able to take up oxygen. But neurons weren't communicating, meaning zombie pigs are still a pipe dream.
There is no military expert.
Senator Mike Gravel served the great state of Alaska from 1969 to 1981. Then he dropped off the radar for a while, until 2008, when he ran for the Democratic nomination for president and earned a few new fans with his weird super lefty campaign. After that, he disappeared again. Nowadays, he lives in California. He's 88, and a group of kids are about to give him another chance to be a thing.
How are you?
So excited to meet you.
Please meet.
I'm Henry.
You're Henry.
Hi, I'm Ben. The funny thing about this is that it kind of transcended a particular interest. It just seemed too exciting of an idea to not do.
None of the people at this table want Mike Gravel to be president, including Mike Gravel.
Yeah, I don't want to be president.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
The plan is to get Gravel enough donors to make the 2020 Democratic debate stage, and then poke Democrats with extremely lefty takes.
Nothing's happened in my issues in 10 years. And that's what persuaded me to give you my Twitter account. and you're just using me.
Yeah.
And I don't mind being used.
A little more to your left. There.
The massively online teen is a relatively new addition to American politics. They exist both on the left and the right. They're the kids posting memes all day long and swarming to attack people they think are lame on Twitter. They have a cynic's detachment and an idealist's optimism, often in a single internet post.
So good. Cut!
I feel like you guys are at the epicenter of a part of politics that a lot of people are confused by. It's jokey, but it's serious, but they hate everything, but they love the country and want to change it. You know what I mean? Like, how many of the donations that come in are for 420?
Quite a few of them. Quite a few. Our average donation is somewhere between $1 and that. Young people care about these issues, and the language they use to talk about it is not the language of politics we've seen in the past. And I think a kind of postmodern understanding of the world, which is to say, I care about things, and I want to make the world better, but also it's fucking absurd. It's terrifying. And our president stands in front of, hundreds of hamburgers in the White House and grins and gives the thumbs up. And you want to say that politics isn't comedy?
This is the tweet that we're gonna send out, right? So just turn to the camera and just say, "Drill's got nothing on me," okay?
Drills?
Drill's got nothing on me.
What's drills?
Just drill. Drill is a Twitter. I'll explain it afterwards.
And drill's got nothing on me.
That's so perfect. That's
Gravel,
absolutely perfect.
weirdly, is kind of perfect for this moment in a lot of ways. He was a staunch leftist decades before it was cool. In the Senate, he became famous in 1971 for reading the Pentagon Papers into the Senate record, effectively declassifying them.
Who the hell are we going to nuke? Tell me, Brian.
Back in 2008, he became famous again for basically sticking it to any Democrat who crossed his field of vision.
Who on this stage exactly tonight worries you so much?
Well, I would say the top tier ones.
Also, he's kind of a wacky old guy, which is very popular with a particular kind of young voter these days.
So why is it that I am always talking to young white guys like you, and your political heroes are these really old white guys?
I think there's a sense in which what young people care about is earnestness. And the people who are most able and most willing to get out there in a big way, I think, are people with privilege, right? It's a lot of young white guys. And at the same time, I think it's wrong to portray the movement as only being that.
So I'm a huge supporter of people like AOC and Abrams, these newcomers, but I think it's important that we can rally behind these people who have been proven time and time again to stand on the right side of history.
Is that David?
Gravel, the candidate.
Gravel, his wife Whitney, and his young campaign team talked through the Gravel 2020 platform.
Are you guys ready to begin?
David Ox, the 17-year-old campaign manager, Skypes in from his parents' house in Westchester County, New York.
Our first issue is re-Syria.
Oh, out of Syria, and out of Afghanistan, and out of Iraq, and out of South Korea, period, all of them.
And if you have any thoughts on forgiving student debt?
Oh, God, wipe out all student debt. I think it's criminal.
David, you missed abolish ICE.
Oh, abolish ICE, that's an important one.
Good, okay. Done. We agree to that one. Push them down the stairs.
Yeah. Bernie has it.
Prostitute themselves online.
Turning Gravel into a kind of living, breathing leftist tweet is proving tough. The kids are doing their serious irony thing on Gravel's account all the time. It's great for Gravel the tweet. The kids have added thousands of followers to the account since they took it over. But Gravel the human doesn't like it.
The largest result of your campaign so far has been, it's basically the most negative campaign in the Democratic field. I mean, you've attacked all the candidates running for office. Yesterday, they put a tweet up about Cory Booker. I mean, it's a constant kind of negative.
They put something up on Cory Booker yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They put here, I'll read it to you. If you want a vision of the future under Cory Booker, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. And every once in a while, it stops for an inspirational lecture about how we should never stop dreaming.
Well, I think I've got to call them on that.
The second issue is that human Gravel loves talking about things that people controlling the Twitter version of him do not want him to talk about.
There has been some question about your feelings about 9/11. Can you just help to clarify what your position is on that?
I'm very clear. I think that there's elements. It was an inside job. Now, there had to be somebody that was planting the explosives in these buildings, which came down by controlled demolition. We know from science and physics that it wasn't the airplanes that brought it down.
So where were you found out that Mike Gravel was a 9/11 truther?
How he became a 9/11 truther and where that came from was a genuine and profound skepticism of everything that resulted from 9/11, right? And, absolutely neither of us are 9/11 truthers. Both of us think that the senator is and was gravely misguided on this issue.
But this is where it gets kind of real, right? This is where the joke becomes very serious, because as you're out there pushing these agendas that are very important to you about healthcare and criminal justice, reporters like me are going to keep saying, yeah, but the guy's 9/11 truther. Like, you're going to tie this to 9/11 trutherism? Is all these things that you care about?
I think it's because in a lot of ways, media narratives can't escape individuals, right? It's not about him. And it's also not about us. It's about the people who support what we're saying, and it's about our ideas. A movement has nothing to do with individuals, really.
That as you get the money coming in.
The kids don't think the 9/11 stuff matters. Fine. What about the fact that a guy who was enjoying retirement is now a human troll tweet and doesn't even know it?
There are people who know you, have known you for a long time, remember you from 2008. Some of them are worried that these teenagers are taking advantage of you to play a joke on the Democratic Party just at a moment when everything should be very, very serious.
First off, it's no joke. The issues we're talking about are real. As a legislator, I've used people all my life. And so if they're using me for what they believe in, which happens to be the same things that I believe in, then boy, Katie, bar the door. We want to do more.
Yeah, exactly. That's the comedic turn of it.
Have we started posting to the Instagram yet? I haven't been following.
Sometime tomorrow morning, the world will finally see Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on his investigation into President Trump. At least we'll see some of it. The guy delivering the report, Attorney General William Barr, has promised color-coded redactions. We don't know for sure what will be blacked out, but we do know some things about Barr himself that might offer a sneak preview. First, he and Mueller have been good friends for 30 years, and in his confirmation hearing, Barr said that he told the president that Mueller was a, quote, straight shooter.
And I said, Bob is a straight shooter and should be dealt with as such.
So he's probably not going to completely gut the report. In fact, the Justice Department said today that a less redacted version of the report would be released to certain members of Congress. Second, Barr says there's stuff he has to keep secret, including grand jury evidence and classified material, so those things will be redacted. And third, and perhaps most important to Trump, Barr has a pretty rich history of keeping presidential actions out of the public eye. In 1989, Barr was the head of the Office of Legal Counsel, providing legal advice to the Bush White House. The FBI wanted to know whether it could legally abduct people in foreign countries without asking the host government. Barr wrote a legal opinion saying, in effect, go for it. But when Congress asked to read that opinion, he offered to send them a summary instead, which, as it turned out, left out a lot of important stuff. A few years later, Barr was Attorney General. An independent counsel was investigating the Iran-Contra scandal. It involved the Reagan administration secretly selling weapons to Iran to fund anti-communism efforts in Nicaragua. As part of that investigation, the independent counsel brought charges against multiple Reagan officials, including former Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger, for some little things like perjury and lying to Congress. Barr was skeptical of the investigation. In an interview, he said that many of the Iran-Contra defendants had been treated, quote, very unfairly. And he helped convince President Bush to pardon 6 of those defendants. Weinberger actually got his pardon before he even went to trial. Barr wasn't just opposed to the independent counsel investigation into Iran-Contra. He thought the independent counsels in general had way too much power to investigate the executive branch. In 1992, Democrats asked Barr to appoint a special prosecutor into something called Iraqgate. It had to do with allegations about Iraq using U.S. loans to buy weapons. Barr did something unprecedented. He just said no. Barr did appoint a former judge to look into it. The judge found no evidence to support the allegations. But after Barr's refusal to even name a special counsel, columnist William Safire gave him the nickname the Cover-Up General. A lot of people don't remember that William Barr, but one guy does, James Brosnahan. He was one of the prosecutors in the Iran-Contra case. Brosnahan spoke with Vice News' Greg Walters about the parallels between Barr then and now.
I was surprised that he was confirmed without much discussion about his role in the Iran-Contra cover-up. I've been waiting for him to do the same thing with the Mueller report.
Given Barr's friendship with Mueller and his concern for political optics, tomorrow's report won't be so heavily redacted that all you see is black. But Barr's support of executive authority and his skepticism of special counsels means that the report likely will be carefully sanitized. And if that's the case, Brosnahan definitely won't be surprised.
If you want a presidential cover-up, Barr is your guy.
Even in a disastrous economic crisis, thousands of Venezuelans still turn out every week to support President Nicolás Maduro.
Vamos a defender la libertad, vamos a defender la independencia, vamos a defender a Nicolás, vamos a defender el legado de Hugo Chávez.
But that support is less about Maduro himself than it is about loyalty to the man who was president before him, Hugo Chávez. Chávez became a national hero by lifting millions out of poverty. And before he died in 2013, he named Maduro as his successor.
En ese escenario que obligaría a convocar, como manda la Constitución de nuevo, a elecciones presidenciales, ustedes elijan a Nicolás Maduro como presidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
¡Leales siempre! ¡Viva la revolución bolivariana! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva el presidente Maduro! ¡Que viva!
The legacy of Chavismo is clearest in the barrios of Caracas, which used to be slums with ramshackle houses and no running water. Today, the government supplies basic goods like food and gas for free or for cheap.
El gas. ¿Qué pasó, señor Pedro? Que suba la bombona.
Giancarlos Nieves is the president of his communal council, a type of local elected body created under Chavez.
¿No bendiga su pan? ¿Van a bendiga?
Sí, que suban las bombonas, ¿viste, María?
Ah, la suban una vez.
Sí.
These programs are now essential to survival, both for the people receiving them and the government that provides them.
¿Qué tipo de ayudas le brinda el Consejo Comunal a la comunidad?
En alimentación, en el gas doméstico como lo estás viendo, en salud, en obras sociales, viviendas, todo eso, lo que nuestro gobierno, nuestro presidente nos da a nosotros lo distribuimos en nuestros sectores, todo lo que venga.
Niños, pónganse por un ladito para poder dar una bombona. ¡Bernarda!
Bueno, digamos, si por desgracia no logran salir de eso pronto y esta situación se prolonga más y más y la gente sigue sufriendo de carencias, ¿tú crees que en algún momento el gobierno va a perder el apoyo de los barrios?
Si somos leales, no.
But that loyalty is wearing thin.
Aquí no ha llegado la caja, aquí no hay nada, aquí lo que hay es hambre. De aquí no me voy a mover hasta que no me reciban la bombona.
Years of shortages and inflation are now compounded by regular power blackouts that leave entire neighborhoods without running water.
Bueno, que no hay agua, no estás viendo, y todo el mundo está llenando de aquí del Guaire. Lamentándolo mucho, el pueblo está sin agua, sin luz, y si no hay luz, no hay agua. Entonces queremos que se nos solvente esto, de una vez por todas.
Estamos en una crisis, agarrando agua de unos ríos, porque aquí en este país estamos fracasados.
Still, many in the barrios are like Olga Andrade. Olga has cancer and has had trouble getting treatment. When we met her, she'd just spent 4 days without power. And yet, she doesn't see the opposition as a real alternative.
Si hay mucha gente que está dejando de apoyar este gobierno, ¿no? Aunque no seas tú.
Aunque no sea yo, pero sí hay personas que están decepcionadas por X o Y, pero sí hay decepciones. Están decepcionados, más no son de la oposición. ¿Ve? Están pasivos.
¿Por qué estar decepcionado con el gobierno y con el chavismo no quiere decir, no es lo mismo que estar con la oposición?
No sé, pero es que, ¿qué te va a ofrecer la oposición? Si cuánto tiempo tiene la oposición peleando por X cosa o Y, pero ¿qué ha hecho?
Confianza en lo que somos, guerreros, libertadores, valientes, venezolanos, en definitiva, dignos.
The new face of the opposition is Juan Guaidó, the 35-year-old president of the National Assembly. In January, with support from the U.S., he declared himself the legitimate president of Venezuela.
El régimen sabe que está derrotado. El régimen sabe que ellos no son ningún camino a nada. Nosotros sabemos que la solución pasa por nosotros.
We sat down with Guaidó for an exclusive interview and asked him what he has to offer after 12 weeks of claiming power without actually having it.
Por ahora, Maduro se ha aferrado al poder. A mí, por lo menos, no me parece que hay una nueva estrategia clara por parte de la oposición. ¿Cómo ve usted el futuro? ¿Cómo ve el camino?
¿Cuál debe ser la ruta? Insistir. O sea, podría sonar trillado, pero la verdad la ruta cuando enfrentamos a una dictadura con la no violencia, con la Constitución, con la movilización, nuestra gran defensa, nuestra gran posibilidad de avance es continuar.
Pero entonces no va a haber cambio de estrategia. Digo, porque la situación ahora es como extraña, ¿no? Hay gobiernos paralelos, Obviamente muchos países lo reconocen a usted como el presidente, pero todavía no está ejerciendo el poder. ¿Cuánto más puede durar esa situación?
Bueno, es una situación realmente atípica. Entonces, aquí la gran pregunta es, ¿cuánto más costoso en tiempo, en vidas humanas, lo va a hacer Nicolás Maduro Moro?
¿Usted no teme que la gente, incluso la gente que lo apoya a usted, o por lo menos la gente que rechaza a Nicolás Maduro, va a perder la paciencia?
Ya la perdieron. No sé si viste las protestas recientes en Venezuela. Ya la paciencia aquí se perdió.
No, pero la paciencia con usted.
Bueno, la paciencia en general.
One person whose patience is being tested is Rubén Darío López, who defected from the Venezuelan National Guard to join Guaidó in the opposition. López is now in Colombia, where he has refugee status from the UN and lives in a hotel with his family and a group of other defectors.
Que es el chaleco antibala. O protege uno porque ahí están las queblas adentro. Tiene las queblas, ¿eh?
López gambled his future on Guaidó in February, when the U.S. tried to force shipments of aid from Colombia into Venezuela. The plan was to provoke a mass defection from the armed forces, but that plan failed miserably. López was only one of a handful of soldiers who abandoned their posts and crossed the border.
¿Usted cree que Guaidó es el presidente? ¿Usted lo considera?
Él quiso pasar ayuda humanitaria, pero las Fuerzas Armadas están con el presidente. Ellos no van a dejar pasar eso. Él tiene comprado toda Venezuela, todos los poderes a los militares. Nadie se le va a voltear.
López is stuck. If he ever sets foot in Venezuela while Maduro is president, he'll be arrested for treason. Now he spends his days talking to other soldiers in exile and waiting for something to happen.
La oposición da su vaina a conveniencia, el chavismo da su huevona a conveniencia, y ahora el tiempo no saben ni a qué coño creer, lo ponen a uno a tambalear ahí, lo ponen a uno a una incertidumbre, una vaina loca, güey. Con todos esos países que con el carajo este Guaidó deberían de coño echarle la mano, güey.
El objetivo primordial ahorita es que caiga este régimen. Y si es un fracaso, después se olvidan de uno. Hay que tener paciencia y unión y fortaleza.
My name is Eli Valley, and I'm a political, satirical comic artist. My art of Trump, it sort of evolved, sort of like the flesh, consuming itself and sort of like metastasizing upon itself. It's sort of, to me, a visual representation of his relationship to truth. I think that Jews, because of our collective historical memory, because of our experience, and because of our tradition, are uniquely positioned to be witness. There are really great Yiddish cartoonists, if you want to see. This classic comic on showing Jewish sweatshop owners as Pharaoh. It's nice for the Passover holiday coming up. I learned a lot from just looking at these images. I actually wanted to move beyond politics and start doing more maybe memoir type stuff, but then Trump came along. I want my comics to be a testament to the horror that is happening. Because the news cycle has become so accelerated, I prefer to do like single panels now, more postcards from dystopia. I don't even consider my comics to be funny at this point. They're just like snapshots. All of them engender a certain amount of backlash by people who are either in the Trump cult or don't like the vulgar form of my comics. I guess the Meaghan McCain one got a lot of backlash. Meaghan McCain was attacking Ilhan Omar for comments that Omar had made about monolithic support for Israel and AIPAC.
What Ilhan Omar is saying is very scary to me, and it's very scary to a lot of people, and I don't think you have to be Jewish to recognize that.
So she clearly didn't understand the comic. She called it anti-Semitic. She said it was the most anti-Semitic thing she'd ever seen, which, I joke that she obviously was in a coma during Charlottesville and Pittsburgh, I did one comic called The Ilhan We'd Accept. She starts off by saying things that she didn't say, by the way, but saying something like, Jews are greedy, money-grubbing, villainous creatures. And then you look at the bottom quote, and it's like, who were given the entire land of Israel from the river to the sea by Jesus, hallelujah. And basically evangelical Christians, which we accept their anti-Semitism because they're pro-Israel. Trump, he's increasingly saying that the Democrats are anti-Semites, when in fact, Trump incited the most horrific pogrom in our history. So I drew him with an assault rifle outside the Tree of Life synagogue. And then one comic in which, Trump, he has a swastika on his arm and Netanyahu is in the air hugging him. Netanyahu has made alliances with movements that have historically sought the extermination of the world's Jews. And this is Netanyahu's BFFs. I did one in which Nazis are about to shoot a Jew in the head, and they say, wait, hold on. There's some reports that someone on the left made a remark that could possibly, in certain circumstances, overlap with the vernacular of anti-Semitism, And even the Jews saying, this is an outrage. But it's sort of putting this slightly distorted, or maybe even very distorted, mirror up to reality to show the preposterousness of trying to both sides what's going on. My comics are not intended to convince the other side. Some people think, shouldn't your comics be an argument? What my comics are trying to do is galvanize our side and to remind our side we are not the evil ones. And also to, say fuck you to the other side.
Technological change is disruptive.
Artificial intelligence,
robotics,
automation.
Whole businesses are changing.
Retail, fast food,
driverless vehicles.
You guys are truck drivers. How do you feel about it?
If I'm scared, I deliver your food that you're eating, and it's a good feeling as a human being. What would I do if I didn't drive? I really don't know what I would do.
These technologies that are coming along will displace millions of workers around the world,
which
would have a dramatic societal impact.
At the same time, technologies are creating new jobs.
How do you think automation will evolve?
Machines are tools. If we have more powerful tools, we have more power to change the world.
No matter what your occupation, in the future, you're going to have an interaction with tech. There really should be some action legislators are taking.
What worries me is by the time we get around to dealing with this, it's going to be too late.